समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा?
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
India has shut down what India has called the absurd theatrics of Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif at the United Nations. While speeches by Pakistani leaders at the UN are often bizarre, this one reflected the new shrillness that Pakistan is flexing, perhaps after the meeting that took place between Donald Trump and Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir. Trump was meeting Asim Munir for the second time in the last few months. A young diplomat from India basically said that if destroyed runways and burnt hangars look like victory to Pakistan, well then, so be it. But the question still remains, how do we understand Trump's pivot to Pakistan? Some are calling it the most significant American pivot to Pakistan since the 1970s. Is this driven by commerce, flattery, West Asia, or something else? I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. At the United Nations, we saw a young diplomat from India valiantly take down the absurd and bizarre address by Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. One in which he not just did a kind of sycophantic suck up to Donald Trump, once again claiming that if Trump had not intervened in Operation Sindoor, that's what Pakistan claims, not what India claims, then a catastrophe would have taken place. Sharif also claimed that had Pakistan not been clamping down on terrorists, and I can't say this without a smile on my face, terrorists would have been roaming the streets of London and New York. Clearly, Pakistan's Prime Minister inhabits a parallel universe, certainly from ours. Young diplomat Petal Gehlot ripped apart Shehbaz Sharif's speech. She spoke about how it was Pakistan and Pakistan's military that quote-unquote pleaded directly with India to basically halt hostilities. And that is how a halt in hostilities, a pause in Operation Sindoor. Beyond Shehbaz Sharif's speech remains the wider question. The world is in churn. Trump has upended geopolitics as we understand them. We have seen not just the 50% tariff on India, but a new regime on H-1B visas, 100% tariff in the pharma sector, and Trump's new courtship of Pakistan. How do we understand all of it? Let me introduce my two very distinguished guests to try and look at not just what's happened at the United Nations, but also what's been happening in the United States of America for the last few days, where incidentally Foreign Minister Jaishankar also spoke about what he called the evident hypocrisy of the Western world. Military veteran, former General Officer Commanding of the 15th Corps, General Ata Hasnain is with us. Always a pleasure, sir. And also joining us is veteran diplomat and also India's former High Commissioner to Pakistan, who wears like a badge of honor the fact that he was basically thrown out by Pakistan after the abrogation of Article 370. Ambassador Ajay Bisaria is with us as well. Let's get a first couple of comments on the overview. We'll play out a clip from Shehbaz Sharif's speech where he's basically flattering Trump, which is exactly how Trump prefers it, but really almost cringe-worthy speech, not just almost, but really cringe-making speech by Shehbaz Sharif there. The overall picture, Ambassador Bisaria, is there a clear and distinct pivot by America to Pakistan, or is there something else going on here?
Barkha, I don't think it's a pivot of any kind. I think this is transactionalism at play. And this is really a continuation of the lunch that Asim Munir had with President Trump at the White House on the 17th of June. And this time he said, I'll come in tow with my assistant because Shehbaz Sharif needed to be given some legitimacy. If you follow the chatter within Pakistan, there was an almost desperate attempt by the House of Sharif to say that involve us in this play, don't keep us out. And you also have to read what is happening in the context of what is happening within Pakistan, which is a play by the army and by Asim Munir to possibly become the president of Pakistan, which is the House of Sharif wants to checkmate the House of Zardari Bhutto and have Asim Munir installed as president, maybe even before November, because November is the time that he gets an extension of 2 years to complete his 5-year tenure. So a lot at play in the internal politics. And with the US, it was a transactional game. It had various elements which you've been dissecting in your various shows. It was crypto, critical minerals, counterterrorism, and a bit of flattery. So all that, this is a continuation of, you've been mentioning that this meeting was off the record, or was certainly closed door. There was no media because I think both sides felt they have a lot to hide. And people in Pakistan are beginning to ask a lot of questions on what is Pakistan giving up to get there.
That's very interesting that this is all partly also about a power play within Pakistan, and that you would prefer to call it transactionalism rather than a pivot. But in the short term, General Ata Hasnain, and I know your piece in First Post also says, get ready for more of this kind of transactionalism. That's the exact phrase that you use. In the short to medium term, it looks like a pivot. It may not be one. What does it mean for India?
First of all, Barkha, firstly, thank you very much for getting me back on the program. I'm coming back after a fair amount of time, I know. Yes, first of all, this visit to Washington, the third visit to the United States by Asim Munir, and the first by the Prime Minister for quite some time. It's a follow-up of the presence at the UN, there's no doubt about it, and possibly the US felt that, and of course the Pakistani officials also probably felt that there couldn't be a better opportunity. If it's going well, might as well keep getting it better, and let's go and call on the president now that they are great friends, so to say, virtual chums. So this was the essence was that only. The visit, I think, was just that. It was to reinforce, flatter, the aspect of creating a pivot out of Pakistan. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be anything in the geopolitics of the environment of the area in which Pakistan can act as a pivot as such, or of any great use to the United States. But there are other things which we will discuss, I'm sure. There is, as you yourself said, and the third of the priorities, perhaps West Asia, and there is this whole aspect of flattery itself. Now, I think we will have to wait out this entire game, this entire drama, until the time when the Nobel Prizes start coming into effect, because they've repeated it that a man of peace, they projected him as a man of peace, and they felt, the team obviously from Pakistan has felt that this is the way forward, leaving out everything else. I don't think geopolitics of the world is at a stage at the moment where the United States can actually take major strategic decisions, keeping Pakistan as the center point, as the pivot, so to say. So they are just building around it, and obviously the Pakistanis are taking full advantage of it for the moment. The issue will be, how long will this last? Okay, once let's say something comes about on the Nobel Prize front, how long will this last? Because something substantial has to come out of this relationship. Only then will it really flourish. At the moment, that doesn't seem to be on the cards.
So let me just play out a clip from Shehbaz Sharif's speech to the UN, where he basically claims that had Trump not intervened, then a catastrophe would have taken place in Operation Sindoor. It's the sort of same old, kind of, without using the phrase, kind of nuclear blackmail attempt that Pakistan has often played with the West. And he reiterates the mention of a Nobel Prize for Trump. Take a look.
For peace helped avert a more threatening war in South Asia. Had he not intervened timely and decisively, the consequences of a full-fledged war would have been catastrophic. Who would have lived to tell what happened? And therefore, in recognition of President Trump's wonderful and outstanding contribution to promote peace in our part of the world, Pakistan nominated him for Nobel Peace Prize. And I think this is the least we could do for his love for peace. And I think truly he's a man of peace.
I mean, utterly cringe-making, Ambassador Bisaria. I want to start with you. You know, there are those in India and abroad who have argued that perhaps India could have handled Trump with a little more, softness, kid gloves, flattery, tact. Okay, tact, that's a good word. But you know, when you hear this completely cringe-worthy speech, by Pakistan's Prime Minister, you're sort of a little grateful for, for our leaderships. But even if we made the mistake of being very proud, rather be very proud than be this. But really, what's going on here? How much of a component is flattery here, given Trump's personality, according to you, Ambassador Bisaria?
Absolutely. So this wasn't really diplomacy. This was total chamchagiri. Trying to repeat what Trump had said, which is that I stopped a nuclear war, and every fact on the ground is not supporting this thesis. But this is what the Pakistan's Prime Minister is saying. But he said a lot of bizarre things. But to contextualize this is a thrice-a-year drama that takes place at the UN. Once at the and General Assembly meeting, and twice at the UN Human Rights Council. Every year, Pakistan comes up with its claims on Kashmir and some few other bizarre kind of statements. And India normally uses a junior diplomat to counter it. So that is par for the course. But what distinguishes this speech is a few, as you said, bizarre comments that he makes. I think it's only a Freudian slip that you showed earlier when he says that the fact that Pakistan stopped them means that they couldn't go and blow up things in New York, which is completely right. Because, Pakistan created the nursery of terrorism, the universities of terrorism, and the 9/11 terrorists were trained there. So absolutely right. If they had controlled all these guys all through, we wouldn't have seen the terrorism that we did. But, what Pakistan is doing to control terrorists, if it's doing that, is good. But clearly it's not enough, because many of these terrorists are still escaping and creating mayhem.
Yeah. General Hasnain, before you respond, I do want to, Ambassador Bisaria, refer to a young diplomat who always gets this chance to sort of actually shine on the global stage and have her or his country people root for them. And that's exactly what happened here. We had an Indian response, a very strong Indian response, this time on Operation Sindoor, talking about how Pakistan's military pleaded with India. That's the word that's actually used. I want to play out that clip and we'll come right to you.
Can there be any doubt about the proclivities of this regime? The Prime Minister of Pakistan also advanced a bizarre account of the recent conflict with India. The record on this matter is clear. Till 9th May, Pakistan was threatening more attacks on India. But on 10th May, its military pleaded with us directly for a cessation to the fighting. The intervening event was the destruction caused to multiple Pakistani air bases by Indian forces. The pictures of that damage are, of course, publicly accessible. If destroyed runways and burnt out hangars look like victory, as the Prime Minister claimed, Pakistan is welcome to enjoy it.
So very succinct, very effective. But the interesting and important line for us, General Hasnain and Ambassador Bisaria, for us to discuss is Pakistan's military pleaded directly with us. The word directly emphasizes, hello Trump, you didn't mediate this for us. So of course we know the sequence of events has been put put in the public domain from Parliament. The fact that phone calls came from the Americans, all that is established. But here we are saying at the UN, Pakistan's military pleaded directly with us. General Hasnain, the import of that sentence for you?
When I got the information that I'm going to be participating in your program, what I did was I did a small artificial intelligence check to see what's on record. And you'll be surprised. I mean, almost all the sites, they give you a complete sequence of action from the night of 6th, 7th of May till the 10th evening, when the ceasefire, so-called the ceasefire, came into being after the 88-hour engagement. It is absolutely clear that nowhere does the issue of Mr. Trump having come into it, emerges anywhere. And the Pakistanis themselves are on record of having said that this whole thing was a bilateral issue. Even the ISPR in its subsequent statement in the morning, the next day, also mentioned that this was basically a step taken by the two countries, the two DGMOs, when they spoke to each other. That is amply clear. But obviously, the narrative had to change. The moment that Mr. Trump and his advisors perhaps realized that this was a golden opportunity to project Mr. Trump as a peacemaker, man of great peace and things like that, this was the great opportunity. If you see Mr. Sharif's speech, he is reading a prepared speech in which all this is deliberately put down. Even the flattery is not spontaneous. It is as if the whole thing has been contrived and put on paper so that he can read this out, prepared from Islamabad and come. So obviously, flattery is the main issue which is emerging here. And they found that this particular aspect of the ceasefire was something with which they could actually exploit the situation to the hilt completely. And that's what has happened.
I want to talk, though, about what's the larger power dynamic in South Asia and West Asia. And I want to bring in Ambassador Bisaria at this point. One of the meetings that Trump held before he had this meeting with, as you call it, Asim Munir and his assistant, I'm going to steal that line, I love it, was a meeting of leaders from the Muslim world, from the Arab world, Turkey, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and so on. And Trump called it his most important meeting. Juxtaposed with this is the fact that when Benjamin Netanyahu gets up to speak at the United Nations, there's a kind of mass walkout of other countries. It feels like the world and maybe even Trump is losing his patience, I don't know for sure, with Israel. Now, General Hasnain has made this argument, so I'll come to you first, that Gaza may have something to do, not just Flattery, not just the Crypto Council links between his family and Pakistan, not just rare earths and Bagram, but that Gaza has something to do with what's going on, with the new importance given to Pakistan. The fact that Trump did not allow press into his meeting with the Pakistanis, neither this time nor the last time, by the way, when he met with Munir alone. What do you make of that? And do you think Gaza is a factor?
That's a very interesting aspect which emerged in my own mind while I was analyzing this entire thing. And also the fact that preceding the visit of Mr. Sharif to the White House, we had the Turkish president, Mr. Erdogan, also there a couple of hours before. Could we link up anything with Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia simultaneously? What emerged in my mind was that Gaza was becoming a problem for the United States. The Israeli reluctance to stop the war and the inability of the United States to pressurize them sufficiently to be able to stop the bombing, the various military actions, etc., was leading the United States to feel that there was a requirement for them to have a larger kind of confabulation of different countries who would be looking at the future peace of West and stability of West Asia. We looked at Turkey as the northern hinge of that. Pakistan, no, not a part of the Middle East, but definitely one element which has a good relationship with the United States and a good relationship with Saudi Arabia now. That one becoming an important element there. And then Saudi Arabia itself, with whom the United States has a strong relationship, but that relationship seems to be getting out of gear at this particular moment, primarily because the Saudis also are fairly peeved with Israel. So it's a very complex kind of a game which is going on there at this time. And the United States wants to make sure that it is meeting or it is playing with all the important players in this game at this particular time. Whether it has got a long-term strategic connotation is early to say at this stage, but at the moment it seems to be setting the stage for the future.
Ambassador Bisaria, let me add a question here before you respond. The fact is that even if this is transactionalism, as both of you seem to agree, for the interim, it gives Pakistan a legitimacy. You know, we see Pakistan as this sort of, as you called it, a factory that produces terrorists, a vassal state of China now sucking up to the Americans. But the pact, the NATO-style military pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, a seat for Pakistan at the table at this meeting to discuss the situation in Gaza in West Asia, then the meeting with Trump and Munir present, you know, Pakistan will accord itself a legitimacy that may not be meant for it. Also Trump's negotiations for control of the Bagram base. You know, all of this gives Pakistan a role that some are comparing to the kind of role that it had in the 70s. I know you don't see it as a pivot, but even transactionally, is the short-term consequence that Pakistan gets to enjoy its 15 seconds of fame?
Right. You know, I would say giving Pakistan a larger-than-life role in this game is overreacting a bit. I don't think Pakistan just accidentally happens to be useful at this point of time. But, you know, what we saw unfold in the last week for Trump is a difficult situation. The two wars that the MAGA and the Trump campaign promised to end in West Asia and in Ukraine aren't ending, because the two strong men who he thought were his friends and he was dealing with, both Putin and Netanyahu, are gaming him and continuing to do what they want to do and not playing according to the Trump script. So you saw him try to balance in both these conflicts. So you saw him in the West Asia conflict say to the primarily Arab leaders that he would not allow Israel to annex the West Bank, for instance. And this is a conversation in the Israeli right-wing situation that, you know, Israel should finish the job and also annex the West Bank. So Trump is kind of pushing back against this. He recognizes that the Israeli attack to Qatar has damaged US credibility in West Asia with the Qataris and with all the Gulf Sunni monarchies. So I think he's facing that pushback. And again, he's expressed his disappointment with Putin and his disappointment at the Ukraine war. And he's going to plan B, which is that I will simply sell weapons to NATO and NATO can provide those to Ukraine. And he's encouraging Zelensky and Ukraine to fight. So that is, again, another means of pressure on Putin. So Pakistan's role is a limited one. You know, Pakistan's media is going gaga that their leader met Trump 3 days in a row. And this is unprecedented, counting also a 40-second bump in meeting in New York as a summit. So I think Pakistan has some uses. But, you know, there's another factor you mentioned, which I want to bring in. Pakistan is, as a foreign policy, has traditionally, you know, had this obsession with India, with Kashmir, but for its financial reasons, getting funds, it plays three godfathers, which is the US, China, and Saudi Arabia. The primary godfather remains China. So all this play with the US, with Saudi Arabia, would have happened with Chinese permission. They would say, oh, hang on, please give us permission. We have to go and play the Americans. Can we please do it? And would have got this permission to play this game. And there are limits to how much the US-Pakistan, kind of transactionalism can go. We've already seen the tensions on Bagram base, as you mentioned. because the Trump suddenly says, I want that base because I want to watch China and its nuclear program. And then you have the Pakistanis getting together with the Chinese and Russians and signing a statement which says we can't let outside forces take Bagram base. So you can't be playing both sides beyond a point. You know, there will be stress, there will be tension, and Pakistan will finally have to lean towards China.
But here's my question to you, Ambassador Bisaria, before I actually go back to General Hasnain. You know, India, like you have the sort of Ashley Tellis, you have JD Vance, you have had all kinds of commentary out of America that India hasn't picked a side. If you're leaning towards us, lean towards us totally. But look at Pakistan. If Trump wants Bagram to monitor China, Pakistan is almost like a vassal state of China. Pakistan is now sucking up to the Americans. You say the Pakistan-Saudi pact would not have been possible without China. So how do we understand China in all of this? Not America, but China. Is China in on Pakistan and America's new coziness? And what does that mean for Quad, for India, for various calculations that we've always taken for granted?
I think the way to strategically analyze this situation, the China-Pakistan equation, and therefore Pakistan's other equations, is that we should take for granted now the collusion between China and Pakistan. We saw it on the battlefield, but assume it's on in the diplomacy as well. Pakistan would not have taken these steps without a Chinese blessing. And to go to Trump, to go to the Saudis, I think would have required Chinese blessing. So I think the way to frame it is that it's a China-Pakistan collusion, and Pakistan is playing these games with a Chinese blessing. And, it may not be micromanaging every detail, but there is an overall sense that this really hasn't happened without a Chinese agreement.
So the question, General Hasnain, is this. If this is China-Pakistan collusion, we are simultaneously trying out a sort of rapprochement process, cautious rapprochement with the Chinese. Trump wants to cut some sort of at least financial deal with the Chinese, even if not a strategic deal, right? And thereby hangs the question, what is the future of the Quad?
That's a difficult question to answer at this particular stage, but taking that question in context, let me say this, that all that is happening as far as Mr. Trump's relations with Pakistan is concerned, I seem to think that if Mr. Trump and his advisors had not had this kind of an approach to Pakistan, you would have left India, Russia, and China on their own, the virtual RIC on their own, not the RIC club, but the RIC individually on their own without any problems. I mean, they would have a neat compartments to work in.
I should say, forgive the brief interjection, that FM Jaishankar hosted a meeting of the BRICS foreign ministers in New York on the sides of everything that's going on.
Yeah, that keeping all this in mind. Otherwise, the kind of coordination that can happen in BRICS, for example, or within the RIC component of the BRICS, can be tremendous. Pakistan actually acts like a spoiler in the entire game. It's a spanner in the works. The moment you bring in Pakistan, and Pakistan has something to do with India, you are projecting Pakistan against India, and then, God forbid, in the near future, you have some kind of an action once again, reminiscent of something like what happened in Pahalgam. There would be chaos, ultimate chaos, because no one would know who's on whose side. Now, the point is, at this stage, Mr. Trump, as it is, believes in turbulence. He believes in creating this kind of a problem around and emerging out of that, possibly thinking that he will emerge as the winner out of this entire thing. But at the moment, to my mind, it seems he's using Pakistan as a spoiler in this entire equation of India, Russia, China at the moment. As far as the Quad is concerned, it is on hang. It's on a hang mode at the moment. Because we are not hearing anything in the American media either. None of the analysts are talking about it. It's all quiet. Perhaps we are waiting for the next Shangri-La dialogue for it to emerge once again up front in various circles for discussion.
Right. Ambassador Bisaria, let me give you a last word. Certainly, the SCO summit pictures is at least what catapulted the Western media into reporting what was happening between America and India. The question is this phase that we're going through with the United States of America, is it a phase? If it's not a phase, how should India be recalibrating options at this point?
Yes, so I would look at this a little more optimistically, the whole scenario. I would see what's happening in the India-US relationship as a blip. You know, the SCO, as you mentioned, was a good occasion for some signaling, and at least the optics of the signals were read in the White House, and Trump even responded to them. But the long-term signal is that, look, if the US continues to behave the way it is behaving with India, India has options, and it would simply need to look at other partners, diversify, bypass the United States. But, I would argue that the Quad is still around. It's not being talked of. It's not the flavor of the season. But if you ask me to predict, I would say that the Quad summit will be held in India in the next few months. And the United States will be invited. The United States, we're already hearing buzz that Trump might show up, provided
if he shows up, if he combines a Pakistan visit on that trip.
Well, I think so be it. I don't think India is going to lose too much sleep over that. But the main issue here is the India-US trade deal. It is important that for India that the trade deal be concluded in the next couple of months. The 25% extra tariff of the Russia energy goes away, and the Quad summit takes place. The indications from Washington are that I understand that if it's not Trump, it will be J.D. Vance who will show up. So continue with the Quad. So India should keep calm and negotiate, keep calm and do what it does best, maintain its strategic autonomy, have Putin over, invite Trump, and just keep negotiating to hope that this whole situation clarifies, and also have a plan B in case the US behavior becomes even more unpredictable.
Well, at the moment, it seems like a sort of full frontal attack. That said, Trump is a businessman before he's a politician, and many people believe that even H-1B is a kind of negotiating tactic for the trade deal. So I think you're right that, once you sort of sort out what's happening in the trade deal, a lot of other things may clarify themselves. God knows, both of you know much better, but I will say you go to sleep with one comment from Trump, you wake up with another piece of news from Trump. It is entertaining and great copy as a journalist, but as an Indian, and I guess for anybody anywhere in the world, these are crazy times to be living in, and that's an understatement. Thank you so much, gentlemen. General Ata Hasnain, Ambassador Ajay Bisaria, always a pleasure to learn from both of you. Have a great weekend, and to our audience, thank you, and see you Monday.
Thanks, Barkha.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't